Hi there. Welcome to Bourbon Turntable. We are the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey. With me tonight, as always, my good friend, Mr. Drew Crawley. Drew, how are you, buddy?
Howdy. I'm doing well. Doing well.
Good.
Gently recovering from a full weekend of shows and then
Yep.
friends from college being in town. So all that entails, late nights and 4 a.m. Ubers
Yeah.
home. But otherwise, I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. You know, I'm getting ready for fall. We're kind of as this show comes out, we're in the beginnings of fall, and I've started fooling around with making simple syrups for cocktails.
Oh, all
And
right.
I've stumbled across one that I really like. It is a brown sugar cayenne pecan simple syrup.
Ooh.
You,
Oh,
you put that in an old fashioned, and man, it's pretty darn good. That cayenne kind of kicks in just a little bit. It says
love
hello.
it.
Yeah, but
Love
yeah,
it.
we'll be trying that out some more. But tonight we've got a really good show. We have Tyler Sorenson, who is the lead singer and guitarist for a band called Oweda out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Um, Actually, sort of my old stomping grounds for at least a couple of years. So we'll talk
Mhm.
about that some too. But before we get into the conversation with Tyler, we want to tell you about Bar Cart Co-op. Bar Cart is a collection of friends who make content for the whiskey enthusiast. We have shows like Distillers Talk with Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson. They talk with distillers from across the country and around the world. Anything and everything distillation, they cover it on that show. Alan also has a show called One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute, where he will take questions from the audience, from people that follow him on social media, uh, whether you're a legal distiller or you're a backyard distiller. Ask him a question, and he will post a YouTube video response to that question. Very interesting stuff. And My Whiskey Den with Pat and Mike and Mitch every Monday night live, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock Central. My Whiskey Den is where craft whiskey is king. And now just a little bit more about our show.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit that bell notification to find out when new episodes are coming out, which do come out every single Wednesday on all of the services: Spotify, Apple Music, Google, maybe Amazon, definitely YouTube. And always hit that like button, but hit it an odd number of times. So then that way it stays as a like.
Thank you, Mike. You know, that just shows that we've known Mike for a while now, because the beard in that video is probably about as long as mine. I think mine has a little bit more gray in it. But his beard now is just enormous. And
Yep. It's a whole accessory now.
yes, it is. I think he, like carries his car keys in it and things of that nature. So anyway, we appreciate Mike. He's a good sport to let us mess around like that every week. So no more messing around. We're going to bring in Tyler Sorenson from Oweda. Tyler, welcome to Bourbon Turntable.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, man.
Tyler, am I correct that you guys, your band is based out of Chattanooga area?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I was just going to elaborate officially.
Yeah, please.
Where we started off many years ago was actually Red Bank. If you're familiar with the Chattanooga area in any way, shape, or form, Red Bank, Tennessee specifically, we lived in a home together, lived in a house together up on a hill in Red Bank, and it was on Oweda Terrace, and that's where we got the name Oweda. And we kind of just took that and ran with it, very long time ago. And back then we had a ton of members in the band, maybe like 5-piece, I believe it was. And it's changed drastically from then, but for the better, of course, getting like-minded people involved to kind of create the sound that we're developing now. So it's been a fun journey and we enjoy it thoroughly.
Yeah. Well, I'm familiar with Red Bank. When I first got out of college, my first job was in Chattanooga. Okay. And when my wife and I first got married, we lived in Chattanooga for a couple of years. We lived on Mountain Creek Road in some apartments there.
Wow, yeah.
So I don't. Does that even exist anymore?
Yes, it does.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's actually our band manager. When I met our band manager, when we became friends initially, he lived in apartment complex on Mountain Creek Road. There are tons there's like 3 or 4 now, possibly 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if they're the ones, I mean, who knows? They may be the exact ones that you
Maybe.
said.
I'm trying to remember what the name of that one was. It eludes me right now. But that was a long time ago. That's probably. Hopefully, it's been vastly renovated if it still exists.
Hopefully so. If I can remember correctly, I know that his apartment was extremely outdated. So you never know.
It may be it.
It was like a
Very cool,
2-story.
maybe it.
It was like a 2-story like townhome looking.
Yeah.
Thing.
Oh yeah. So who knows? Could be. But enough of me reminiscing about Chattanooga days. Let's talk about what's going on in Chattanooga right now with you guys. So are you born and raised in Chattanooga?
Well, actually, no. I was born and raised in Southern California, Westminster to be exact, Orange County. If you're not familiar with the area, but Orange County, that's where I grew up. About 8 years old, 9 years old, my family decided they were going to move to a place called Meigs County, Tennessee. It's in the sticks. It's about 50 miles north from Chattanooga. I loved it. I absolutely appreciated the fact that we went from a cul-de-sac to 45 acres with dirt bikes and 4-wheelers. It was amazing to me. And I just wasn't at that age where I was going to miss all these friends, and I had friends, but it was just, I was so young, I was more excited about the move. My older siblings, they had a little rougher just because they had to leave their actual friends. They had some good friendships going on, but it was really for the best. And I'm so thankful that my parents and my family decided to do that because I just love Tennessee with all my heart. I mean, it's my favorite state, hands down. And I can't imagine myself living anywhere else. And as far as Chattanooga goes, I almost feel spoiled because I feel like I have this urge internally to want to move somewhere and try living someplace else, right? Because I mean, when you're doing music, you see all kinds of different towns, and you go to a place, you're like, I could see myself living here. I would like this. Yeah. This is cool. But at the end of the day, I feel like as soon as I got my bags unpacked, I'd be missing Chattanooga. So it's just one of those type of things where I'm able to stay in balance in that limbo of appreciating it, but also, I have that hunger and desire to go and see other places. So very fortunate that music has drawn me out of my comfort zone in that way.
For sure.
Terrific. One of the many things that I'm sure has changed in Chattanooga since I lived there is they've got a great distillery there now.
Yes.
Chattanooga Whiskey is a fantastic place. Tyler, are you familiar with it at all?
Yeah, absolutely. My oldest brother Rex, he turned me on to Chattanooga Whiskey a long time ago. And,
awesome.
So I'm a huge fan of it. Definitely. I actually worked for a logistics company out here, and one of the higher ups in that company is like a part owner of the distillery. So he would always have it on deck for us to send to customers and things like that, and just to have. So it's nice.
Well, if you can kind of switch out a label, I can give you my address. What we're going to sip on first. Since we're talking with Tyler, based out of Chattanooga tonight, we're going to be sipping on whiskey from Chattanooga, notably Chattanooga Whiskey Distillery. I think this is their first bottled in bond that came out in 2021. It was barreled in spring of 2017. Bottled in bond, so 100 proof. It's right at 4 years. So let's give this a taste.
So this one's really good. I was a little ahead of the curve. As always, I'm drinking faster than you. But it's got a really pleasant nose to it, a little bit on the herbal side, a little bit on the kind of floral side. Palate wise, get a lot of that kind of pear and almost kind of confectionery fruit note. I know we talk about peach rings a lot on this show, but there's a little bit of that element of the gas station peach rings to it, a little bit of Bartlett pear, and then the back end of it really kind of dries out in a pleasant way. I almost get kind of a cinnamon stick or something, it's not a baking spice note per se, in terms of how you'd experience it in an apple pie or a dessert, but it's kind of a dried spice note, and I really, really dig it.
Yeah. Tyler, what do you think?
Well, he kind of hit the head on those there with the cinnamon and the dry spice of it all. That's what I'm tasting the most. I mean, I don't know. It's got this on the nose for me. It's like a caramely sweetness that I can. It's like I can. It just kind of fills my nostrils up. I don't know. I really enjoy that. But as far as taste goes, all I'm tasting really is that cinnamon taste and almost like a. I dare not say the word cedar, but it's got like this element to it. And like whenever you get that cedar note on your palate, you can, and it finishes off with the cinnamon, like you mentioned. Those are my two big ones that I'm tasting right now that stand out the most.
Yeah, I like it.
Yep. I get a little butterscotch on it. But I also get some of those light fruits, the peach, the pear. And all of the Chattanooga, their thing with their bourbon is it's always a high malt content in the mash bill. So you may be dealing with something in the neighborhood of 20-25% malt, which is going to add a thickness, a richness to it. In some of their stuff, I get a lot of chocolate. I don't necessarily get that here, but I'm a fan. I'm a big fan.
Absolutely. Tyler, are you typically a bourbon fan? Because I think when you and I first met, you were drinking little silver bullets in a 40 rack.
So I don't know. I'm pretty dynamic in my drinking game, I would like to say, but I feel like most people feel that way. I love bourbon. Four Roses is one of my favorite bourbons, and I mean partly because it's super affordable, obviously, but then you don't have to sacrifice with taste or value. That's one of my favorites that I typically drink. I love Blanton's. Huge fan of Buffalo Trace. Absolutely love Buffalo Trace as well. But as far as Chattanooga whiskey goes, I believe they have and I don't want to butcher it because I'm not. I don't know the name of it, but it's like the 18.
It's all right.
I don't want to butcher the year, but it was the one that my brother turned me on to, cork top, but like most of them, but it's like 1886 maybe is like what it says on the bottle, but that might be one of the standards. I don't know if you know what I'm referring to.
1863.
Or 1863 is what it is. Sorry. So that's the one that my brother first showed me, and I really enjoy bourbon. And I don't know. One of my favorite drinks, if I'm going to order a cocktail at any establishment, it's always an old fashioned. Like I can judge a restaurant based off the old fashioned that they make. And I definitely refuse to go to certain restaurants in Chattanooga because I literally asked for an old fashioned once, and they brought me whiskey mixed with orange juice, and I was blown. I was like, "What is this?" You know? I mean, but yeah, I'm a huge fan of bourbon. I love to just sip. I like it on ice. I like it neat. Like I said, old fashioned. I love wine. I thoroughly enjoy silver bullets, light beers, my go-to. I like to drink a lot, you know. So when we're out at a show and we're just hammering, like we'll go sit in the truck and just drink before our set and stuff like that. Sit on the tailgate, enjoy our time, just discussing all these different sounds and songs that we're coming up with at the time, negotiating like what needs to be in the song, what needs to be out of the song, that sort of thing. It's nice to pass the time with a bunch of light beers because by the time we get through and get ready for our set, it's nice not to be drunk. You know? So that's what I try to avoid. I always try to avoid getting up there because that's when I start, forgetting lyrics and whatnot, and that's the last thing you want to do as a lyricist.
I was gonna say forgetting forgetting lyrics to a song that you wrote is maybe the chief embarrassment.
Oh yes,
I feel you.
And honestly, it happens all too often. And my boys, they'll always call me out. They're just like, "So what was that you said?" Because I won't necessarily say a complete different line, but I'm pretty creative on the fly. So, for example, if I say we're singing a song and I say for the first verse, I sing the second verse, and the second verse comes around, I'll sing something that I just make up on the fly, on the spot. And like, we kind of like that. That's not bad. So it's just one of those types of situations where you got to be loose and make sure that you can handle it if you mess it up. But it rarely happens. But when it does, it's great.
So, without implicating yourself for crimes, do you remember what your first kind of drink was that you enjoyed, or something that was the first thing that you really kind of turned you on to the alcohol world?
Ooh, well, I don't know, man. That's a tough one because I think that there was a perspective shift. There was a change in my perspective, and what I mean by that is when I first started drinking alcohol, I was I had no place being anywhere near it. But my goal behind drinking the alcohol was very shallow, superficial, if you will. I wasn't looking for a taste by any means. I was just looking to, have a good time. But I started working at a restaurant and I started tasting all these different wines, tasting all these beers, tasting all these liquors and sampling different things. And it was something that opened me up to like, oh, wow. Like listening to you discuss what you smell, what you taste, it kind of brings me back because I remember sitting there for the first time in a class, hearing someone speak about alcohol that way. And I was like, whoa, I never even thought about that. And then every time, like, for example, you could say, I taste this, this, and this, and I taste it. And I'm kind of, my senses are looking for that. You know what I mean? And whenever I discover it with that in mind, it's like, oh, I can really see that now. I can really taste it now. And then it's something that opens up for me. Because it's like, for some people, I feel like you taste alcohol or you taste a bourbon and you don't have it in your mind what you're tasting. But if you put a name to it, you can kind of really reinvent what it tastes like to you.
Right.
So,
yeah, that power of suggestion.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it gives you a playbook to what you're actually looking at or what you're dealing with. But I would say getting into that restaurant environment, viewing alcohol in the perspective of something, to value versus something to just get you by, something to get you a feeling, more so something to cherish and enjoy, sit down on the couch, drink a glass of bourbon and enjoy your time. It really changes the way that you drink, because I've definitely been in my situations where I'm drinking bourbon out the bottle versus enjoying a glass on the couch. So glad to be here.
Yeah. Well, good deal. That's good stuff. So we're going to get into some more music about your background and more about the band. But before we do that, tell us how everybody can find Oweda.
Okay, yeah. Easiest way would be to look us up on any streaming platform. Hands down, our music is on every streaming platform, whether it be SoundCloud, YouTube. You can go to Apple Music, Tidal, anything, and as far as Instagram goes, I have my own personal TikTok. We also have an Instagram or a TikTok for Oweda. But yeah, we're always trying to release something, always trying to do some content. We're always trying to get involved with one another. We do all live separate. Casey, the guy in the red hat there, he lives he lives near me, but it's not near me. I live in Harrison, Tennessee. He lives in Birchwood, so he's still 45 minutes away from me. Colby, the guy on the right of me in this picture, he's our lead guitar player. So he's in Alabama, so he's about an hour and 15 minutes away. So for us to actually get together and write music, somebody has to make a little trip,
Right.
But yeah, the best way to find our music, any streaming platform. But we're constantly always working. We've got so many songs on the queue, ready to go, ready to record. But it's about getting ourselves in those environments to actually display those songs for what we want them to be viewed as, how we want to present them. So
yeah, very good. And where Drew and I met you was here in Louisville. You guys were playing at the Monarch. That was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
That was a great night.
Time. Yeah, we had a phenomenal time, dude.
Yeah.
I'll take just 2 seconds to plug the Monarch. That's an incredibly special space. It's a nonprofit here in Louisville based around supporting local music and local musicians. So if anybody that's listening to the show has not been made aware of the Monarch, you need to check it out. It's well worth your time to spend an evening there and support what they're doing as far as the work there goes. And if you're involved in Louisville scene right now with Bourbon and Beyond and Louder Than Life, there's some really cool things happening there this weekend, next weekend. So
yeah, the Monarch is fantastic. It's a great place to enjoy music, and I hope that it was a great place for for you guys to play when you did. But it's a great place to enjoy music. So if you're a music fan, you need to make the time to go there.
Yeah, and I'll say this with 100% confidence, and I really do mean this. Out of all the places I've ever played, the Monarch was the most wholesome environment I've ever been a part of, hands down. It just felt like a collection of souls who appreciate music for how we ourselves as the artists appreciated the music.
Yeah.
So there was no worry or anxiety around misinterpretation of what we were trying to do or what we were feeling on stage. It just felt like, and it's a difference. And Drew, you could probably attest to this, but there's a difference whenever you're playing a show for people who aren't there because they truly love music. They're there for the environment more so than anything else versus playing a show for people who are just connected through music. And that's just something that meant a lot to us. And it turned out great. We loved it, man. We talk so highly of it. We tell everybody that we know when we get a chance about it. It's a great place, Yeah. And it's really kind of opened our minds up to try to do more acoustic stuff too, because we like that feel.
Yeah.
We like the vulnerability behind acoustic because we do so many heavy sets, drum kit, the whole 9 bass, electric guitar, but we kind of want to lean towards, and not entirely, but we would really love to, take advantage of the opportunity that lies here in Chattanooga, even to go play acoustic sets and just sit down and take our time and really connect with the audience versus, just going hard at it. So there's just a difference there, and we thoroughly enjoyed both speeds. So we're trying to figure out a way with our upcoming shows to tie that style into our sound, and that you could have a song that you really enjoy, that you really love doing, and it's full band and it's loud and it's powerful, but then sitting down with your guys and figuring out a way to make all of that stay, but also keep it vulnerable in an acoustic set is something that is challenging, but it's extremely rewarding. So something that we really enjoy doing.
Absolutely.
That's great. Hey, let's go ahead and open up this other Chattanooga Whiskey. They do what they call an experimental single batch series as well, where they'll just either play around with the mash bill or play around with the finish. This is where they're playing around with the finish. This is finished in a 100-year-old sherry cask, and I was there, I don't know, a year or so ago, and on the tour they actually show you the barrel, and it's one of those big old wine barrels, and it's hanging in there, but I think it's interesting the flavor that you get out of this. So you guys, maybe you're ahead of me, so you're taking a sip of this. I'm going to follow suit.
All good. There's a richness to this one, almost like a viscosity thing. It's. I struggle to describe it in a way that doesn't sound negative, because it's like motor oil, in that there's just so much. It's coating my whole palate.
Right.
I'm getting a little bit of a honey note. I'm getting a little bit of kind of a raisin or a prune thing. Obviously from the wine cask and things like that. The oak comes through a little bit, and then just a very distinct honey characteristic on it. So
yeah. Tyler, what do you think,
Tyler?
I get a well-balanced taste between like cherry and oak, like you're saying, but that I don't know. I taste a lot of cherry on this, and as far as the viscosity goes, you're dead on the nose with that one. It's almost like as you're taking the drink down and you're swallowing it, it still feels like you have a mouthful. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I really like it. It's good, and it's got. It's like as soon as it touches your tongue initially, it's straight sweetness. It's like all sweet. And then you get the power of the actual bourbon as you're drinking it down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say cherry is what I'm tasting the most. And as far as the smell goes, like you can smell that cherry. That's amazing.
Kevin, what do you think?
I think this one qualifies as funky. There's a funkiness to it. Not to get too technical. Okay.
Sure.
But there's a funkiness to this that's really a lot of fun. I think that my experience with this in the past is as you just kind of sip on it over a little bit of time, it changes and it develops, and you pick up different things, and it makes it a lot of fun to drink. But yeah, I get that cherry note in there too, and you definitely get the sherry influence as well. It's fun. It's very different from anything else that I've had of theirs, and quite frankly, it's very different from most sherry finishes that I've tried.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good stuff.
Definitely.
So Tyler, when did you first start playing guitar, or was that the first instrument you picked up on?
That was the first instrument I picked up on. So I started playing guitar right around the same time Oweda formed, so loosely, 4 to 5 years ago. But it never was to play on stage. I simply wanted to learn guitar because I was surrounded by people who play guitar, and I've always found it to be interesting, and I was very intimidated by it. It took me forever, to be honest, and I've still got so much to learn. And as Drew can probably tell you as well, it's like the more you learn about music, you understand how you don't know anything at all, or at least that's how I feel. But, I'd say about 4.5 years.
Okay.
But I'd say the trickiest thing about it was just getting to a comfortable place where I could sing and play at the same time, be on stage, not forget what I'm doing. Originally, I learned because I wanted to write, and it was tough to write music if you didn't know how to play an instrument. And it's just, I kind of told myself, hey, you got to do this as hard as it is. And just one day, I had a breakthrough, and it's like I could play, and it's that little feeling that I've been chasing ever since, Yeah. And it just feels so good now to be able to pick up my guitar and play it whenever I want and write a new song. It's very empowering feeling, and it's something that I'm very, very happy that I went through with, instead of being the type of singer who's just like, you guys got it, you guys can figure it out. You can just send me the songs and I'll write to them, whatever that is. But that's how it used to be, and I finally was just like, you know what? I want to get a little more independent with this music thing. So it worked out for me.
Absolutely. I have a million questions about your process, but just sort of speak to how you guys write. I know Colby is obviously an incredible guitar player. You've got some amazing musicians in your band, but how do you guys approach, crafting a song? Is it lyrics first, melody first? Guitar solo first, knowing Colby, a little bit.
My wife's sitting over here. My wife's sitting over here. She laughed when she heard you say that because she knows Colby all too well. And really, to answer your question, it's all of the above. Simply put, it's all of the above, and it really it's what reaches out to us the most. I might come up with a melody, and I'll send the melody to Colby, where it's just a vocal melody, and he's talented enough to be able to write around it, right? Or Colby might come up with a riff that is just stuck in his head, and he'll send it to us, and I'll write to the riff lyrically, and then we'll build chords around it. And then Casey does a lot of heavy lifting with the bass, But really, Casey, he is like the Swiss Army knife of the band. He can play guitar great. He can play bass. He can even play a little bit of drums. Not that we ever ask him to, but he's just a very talented individual. And Colby is extremely talented. But together, when we put our minds together, we can come up with different ways to write these songs. And sometimes, Colby will send me a song, and the whole thing's written, like it's done, because he's so talented with writing as well. It's just, he knows how to make catchy music, and that's what I respect most about him, is his ability to maintain such an influence in both lanes. He's definitely the most dimensional out of all of us, in my opinion. And like this last song he sent me, everything was done except for the lyrics, and that's kind of where my specialty is I can kind of catch on to a melody, and over time, over the course of a day or a week or even a month, I'll just sit there and I'll work on the melody, and things will just come to, the lyrics will come to. So sometimes it's really about how much I'm listening to it and where I'm at in my personal life. Like some things may be going on that kind of motivate me to do things differently. But oftentimes I'm sitting on the couch or I'm laying in the bed next to my family, and I'm just headphones in, listening to the music over and over, and I'm just typing on my phone, writing. So we definitely come up with the riffs first, and then the melodies, and then the lyrics. The lyrics are always last.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Interesting.
Yeah. No, I know we're going to get into a conversation about your first albums and first concerts and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things I was super impressed, about by you, was your range as a vocalist.
Mhm.
And so, what would you say are a couple of influences for you vocally? I know you're a great writer. You can play the guitar, with all of us. But who is your vocal influences?
That's a tough one. My like the music that I'm going to tell you, but the music that I grew up listening to is nowhere near like the music I write, but it's a lot of like random stuff, here and there from my dad, from friends, like Marvin Gaye, Lionel Richie, even in the yacht rock realm, like you've got bands like Bread, bands like Ambrosia, huge fan. If you've not heard of those bands, if you haven't, dude, like all those vocalists, they have one thing in common, and their range is huge, and I think honestly where I kind of learned how to sing was in the backseat of my dad's car, in the backseat of my dad's truck. He would drive around and listen and sing, and I just didn't know, like what I was hearing was like, this is just how people sing, you know what I mean? And I would always try to sing along to these songs, and over time I kind of could get there, and then I had to figure out how to find my own voice, but I would say that my number one influence, and then you have the modern side of it too. That's not all. It's not just me in my room listening to yacht rock all day, but huge Kings of Leon guy, huge Kings of Leon. So Caleb Followill really motivated me to the point to where I wanted to kind of take the foundation of what I thought singing was, with the range and the smoothness and the falsettos, but then couple it with a guttural yell here and there, and kind of give it that raw, authentic, emotional feel. And it's just like those two things together. And I hate to put it all on Kings of Leon, but I'm telling you, man, I'm like a diehard KOL fan.
Yeah.
And I've just always loved their music since I heard it for the first time.
That was the conversation you and I had when we met. I sat in on y'all's sound check, and I said, this is like early Kings of Leon. Was the vibe that I was getting. And I think the Marvin Gaye and, that stuff for sure shows kind of in your vocal expression. Right. But you can definitely tell that, and not in a derivative way, but just in a way that you're like, okay, this guy knows, what he's doing from that. So I've loved that about you since I've known you. And just it's very evident in the songs that you guys have done, especially this new single.
Yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying the new single. I love Bones. That is that's one that Colby kind of came up with that whole style. And we got coupled up. I mean, when we performed at the Monarch, we didn't have our keyboard player with us. His name is Boots. Or we call him Boots. His name's Luke, but we prefer Boots. It's so cool. I like it. I like that nickname. And then our drummer's name is Ivan, and the drummer we had with us wasn't our drummer, but Ivan. His name's Ivan Garcia. Phenomenal musician, great person. Just love him to death. I've not met many people who are just as kind as him and honest, and who is just someone who is so objective in the way that they behave, that they can honestly help anybody that they talk to when it comes to music. But he actually produced that record. He produced that album or that song for us. And we're just so happy that we connected with these guys, because we felt as if some of these songs that we had, because that song Bones was not what it is that you hear, is not what it is what you hear on that record when we had it. And then we kind of got introduced to them, and they kind of transformed it with us. It's like all of us together made that what it is.
Yeah.
And we love it. We love it so much. It's one of our favorites. We actually have 2 more singles in the process right now that we're working on. One that just needs to be mixed and one that needs to be recorded, but they're also within that same realm. And we're super stoked about those as well. We're excited. It's like being reinvigorated through networking and connections with other musicians where, you have something for so long and then they show you a little style that you can tweak it and it changes the whole thing. So that's one of those songs that's happened. That's actually the first one that all of us got together. The 4 of us got together and we did that, or the 5 of us got together and we did that. And we were just like, wow, this is something different. We enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. I really enjoy the new single, and the album, I guess the Oweda self-titled album came out last year. It was almost a year ago, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was.
Yeah. And I wanted to just talk to you about a couple of the songs. One of them is Johnny's song. What's the story there?
Yeah. So Johnny's song is, okay. So Johnny is my brother. He passed away. I am the youngest of 5, 2 older sisters who are my half sisters, 2 older brothers who are my full brothers. Johnny was the middle brother of the 3 of us, and he passed away in a car accident whenever he was 20 years old. I was about 18 going on 19, and it was a very, very tough loss in our family. It was very hard on us, and it was obviously traumatic when you lose somebody in that way. Just not like you can't anticipate something like that. It's hard to handle whenever you deal with it. But Colby also has lost a brother as well. He lost his younger brother, and we were writing a song, and he had that song. He wrote all those chords, and he liked the style. We liked the style. We enjoyed it. But for the life of me, I couldn't figure out what to write about, and he came to me one time, just pulled me over to the side and said, "Hey man, I really feel like it would be unique if we take this song, because it sounds upbeat, it sounds happy, it's one of those sounds." He's like, "But if we take it and then we write about something real, something that, a pain that we have experienced in the past." He's like, "I think that blending those 2 styles within this song would be one of the best ways that we can kind of express this feeling that we both share." And I agreed 100%, and we moved forward with it. And, it used to be called just some random name. And he pulled me aside again and said, "Hey, I really think that we should call this Johnny's song, because it is his song." And it just made me love him even more, Colby. But I was like, "Yeah, man, I agree." And it's one of our favorite songs. We love that song so much. And, it is what it is. But to us, it's so much more, and there's so many people that may never hear that song, but we're just so happy that we made it. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when you hear it, it is one of those songs that the music doesn't fit the subject matter of the song, because you're hearing it. Okay, this is a fun song. And then you listen to it maybe the second, third time, you're like, wait a minute. There's a story here that is very serious and profound that is a lot more somber than what this music is letting you onto, like a song Pumped Up Kicks.
Right. Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, great catchy song. Well, okay, it's about a school shooting.
Yeah.
And you I don't know, that juxtaposition, if that's the right word to use for this, between the music and the tone of the music and the tone of the lyrics just being completely different from one another. There's a power in that, and I think that it's fascinating that you guys tapped into that, and I commend you for being able to write about something that's that personal, that serious in that way.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate it, and it's greatly appreciated from Colby as well. I can tell you that. It's just one of those things where you're at a point in your life where you have control over those emotions, and it's like, hey, I want to pay my respect, and that's kind of what it was for us. So we're extremely happy that we were able to pull that off, And that's the biggest thing about songwriting for us is, and I'm sure Drew, you feel the same way. There's so many songs you have hanging on the shelf probably, and you're trying to work them out and get them all out. But at the end of the day, only a few survive. Only a few make it to that final stage of the recording studio. And that was one of them that we were just really, really pleased with. And we were really grateful that we could come to a boiling point with it. We can come to fruition with it. And I thank you. I appreciate that, guys.
Yeah.
If you enjoy that.
There's a song that you dedicate to your wife every night that you guys play. Could you speak to the significance of that and why you arrived on that particular song for her?
Yeah. It's a song called I'm Your Man, formerly known as Sweatpants. But, and it's funny. It's not it. The reasons you may think that it's called Sweatpants formerly it doesn't have anything to do with my wife. It's not like she wore sweatpants all the time or anything like that, but it's my buddy Casey, right? Casey, the bass player, he wrote that entire song, like as far as the guitar and all that stuff like that. I mean, Colby came through and did his thing and he was original with his style, but Casey wrote that feel, with the bass and even with some of the guitar picking. And at that time is when my wife and I were first together. We were first dating. We were first around each other. And I am head over heels in love with her. And I was just so infatuated with her. And I couldn't stop thinking about her every day. So it was hard as a songwriter. I'm like, damn, I feel like I'm writing a song about this girl every other day. I need to cool it off. What am I going to do? Like make a love song album? But I just remember sitting in the basement of a house that we lived in, and also in Red Bank. It's a different house than the one that we shared, but sitting down there, and I was just missing her, hadn't seen her at all, and Casey started playing that tune, and my ears perked up, and I was like, oh man, it's like this guy is playing exactly what I'm feeling right now. So I knew in that moment that it was the appropriate time for me to actually go through and write a song just for her. And I had written songs for her in the past, but this one is very special to me. Very, very special to her too.
Yeah. There seems to be a fair amount of nostalgia in the songs that you write. Old movies and cigarettes. That seems to be one like that as well. Is that an intentional thing, or is that just happened by coincidence?
That one happened by coincidence, specifically old movies and cigarettes. That one was really built around a line that I wrote in a song that wasn't even a real song. It was just me writing lyrics before I knew how to play guitar, me recording melodies and things like that. And I just had that line, old movies and cigarettes. And I was just obsessed with it because I love old movies. And at the time I smoked a lot of cigarettes, but it was just the feel more so in its own way to where, appreciation for the old times. Because I remember I would watch these old movies and like everybody's smoking cigarettes in the restaurant and things like that. And I'm just like, wow, like being alive in those times would be really neat. I always thought, and it may have not been in reality, but at the end of the day, it's just that, polished version of what you see in these highlights throughout history. You're like, well, I wonder what it would be like, because I think about it all the time. We have technology, like we're doing this Zoom call right now, and it's crazy that we're able to do this.
Right.
But, thinking about what it would be like to only be able to get a hold of somebody through a letter, only be able to get a hold of somebody through a phone call, and that's it. There's a freedom of the soul within that. And that's kind of what that song is about for me. And it was kind of like a song to where, that feeling that you feel looking back on those old times mixed with the feeling of finding freedom of a toxic relationship is like where those two meet, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, kind of like a homage to an old relationship where these things are beautiful, but they must die, they must end, and that's just kind of where that came from. And the fact that the sound came through as it did was just unplanned and it was kind of perfect for us. And that's why we liked it so much,
Very cool.
Absolutely. So Tyler, one of the questions that I had kind of coming into this interview was about tone and about sound. Because, you and I sat backstage and drank a bottle of whiskey and nerded out for about an hour and a half or so. But just speak to how you guys are intentional in your tone choices and your sound choices, because I know between you and Colby in particular, just in the conversations that you and I had, everything is on purpose.
Yeah.
There's nothing that you guys are putting out in your sound that's on accident. So
Right.
talk to me about that process, how you guys collaborate, who you work with production wise, and then what you do gear wise. And let's get deeply nerdy about gear.
Yeah. So it's for us, it's pretty much kind of like a feeling. We base everything on a feeling. We want everything to feel a certain way. We don't necessarily say, hey, we want it to be like this and this and this, but we establish our foundation through emotion. We establish our foundation through how you feel when you hear something, whether it be a certain chord change or a certain melody or even a certain effect that we put on the guitar or even a vocal, and we kind of start everything at that ground level. And then we slowly work together. And when I say together, I mean, everybody in the room. Like if you're in the room and you're in the studio, you have an opinion and your opinion matters. And we'll clean the slate if not everybody in the room agrees on the vibe, on the sound, where it's going. And a lot of communication back and forth with our producer, which is Ivan, the drummer. A lot of ideas that of like, hey, hear this song, and you see where these two songs kind of intersect here and they have this certain vibe to it. That's the specific vibe that we would like to approach with that. And then we kind of take that and we tweak it to our own sound. Like we bring it to where we are, because we never want to be the type of group that just releases something that sounds just like someone else or anything like that. So we try really hard to stay original as possible, I think that basing all of our music and our sounds and our decisions off of the feeling that you get whenever you hear them, and then taking that and listening to it over and over and over again, and then slowly moving toward a goal. Oh, sorry, I accidentally muted myself, but that's the way that we achieve those things.
You talked a little bit about influences earlier, yacht rock, which is a fun term. When I think of yacht rock, I think of like Steely Dan and some Michael McDonald and that kind of thing. And I can see that in your music. That kind of comes through. But what was the first album you ever bought?
Ooh, first album I ever bought was Earth, Wind & Fire's Greatest Hits. I bought it at Walmart as I was in 6th grade. Yeah, I had some money of my own. Like my dad used to let us do things outside to earn money. He would pay us like $5 an hour to pull weeds, and I would go out there and pull weeds. I bought this Earth, Wind & Fire Greatest Hits album, and I downloaded it I had like an Xbox or something, and I downloaded it to my Xbox, and I would just listen to it on repeat. And I'm talking like, all the hits, September.
Yeah.
The hearts of fire, create love, desire. That was my jam, dude. Like all that style, all the different blends and backup vocals. I was like, oh my gosh. Like it was like me opening up Pandora's box into this style that I've never even realized before. But that was the first album I ever bought with my own money, hands down. And
Great groove.
Yeah, and I liked, I liked R&B and stuff, and I've grown out of that. I really did like R&B at a young age, and people that I don't even listen to now, and I can't because I'm like, this stuff is so cheesy. How did I ever listen to? And I'm not talking about good R&B. I'm talking about like,
Teddy Pendergrass.
Yeah. Oh no, that I would even classify that as good. I'm talking like, like Jamie Foxx or something. Like no offense. I mean, he's an incredibly talented person. But like artists like that. I mean, I used to vibe with that sort of stuff when I was a kid. I really love Luther Vandross. I don't know if you guys like him. He's a phenomenal vocalist. I loved his music so much, and I still do. I listen to it now. He's just he was like a genius when it comes to melodies. Like where I would hear, like for example, if you have a song and you just play the track to it, just the instrumental to it, and you have like, okay, you'll come up with your own melodies, right? You try to come up with your own original melodies. And then all of a sudden you hear Luther do it to the same track. And you're like, how did he even come up with that? Like that is next level. It's so impressive. so much control, so much intentionality,
Yep.
and so much soul and finesse. And I really appreciate artists who can do that sort of thing.
Yeah. I love
What
it.
about your
Do you
first
remember your
concert?
first concert? Yeah. Same.
Actually, yeah, I do remember my first concert. And my first concert, my first legit concert. And I say legit because I had always, like, being a Chattanooga guy, I'd gone to Riverbend and stuff, but
Right.
I was never there at Riverbend to listen to music because I just didn't have this passion. I didn't have this passion yet, But my first concert was this band, and at the time, dude, there was like 10 of us in there. 10 of us. It was at the Revelry Room, which is now Songbirds, which is like it's gone through so many different phases. So it used to be the Revelry Room when I saw that concert, and then it got bought out and it was called Songbirds, and there was a huge stage downstairs, and then there was a guitar museum upstairs, and now the stage downstairs is closed, and they have like a nightclub in there or something. It's like not even remotely close to what it once was. But the first band I saw was a band called Future Thieves, and they kind of have this like East Nashville sound, like can vibe like Kings of Leon here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But their lead singer's voice is phenomenal. He's dope. And their music off their one album, and it's called Horizon Line. The album was called Horizon Line, and it was, Future Thieves. And there's a song on that album called Liar. And that song, honestly, not to be dramatic, but it changed my whole trajectory with music. Like, I had my passion there. Like, I already had my passion, but watching them perform on stage, I was like, I want to do that. It made me want to be a musician, like, plain and simple. Like, watching those guys perform, they kind of in between songs talked about how they're all friends and this and that and the other. I was like, these guys are amazing. These guys are so cool. Like, I want to do what they're doing. And that's kind of what put us in that. That's what put me even remotely close to that idea of even starting to make music.
Interesting. I just looked them up.
The song Liar is just, I mean, man, like that'll always be one of my favorite songs till the day I die. No question.
Interesting. Cool. So the Kings of Leon influence definitely comes out in your music. But there's some other stuff in there too that I think kind of flows in. I hear a bit of a John Mayer in it, a little bit of Stereophonics even, and it's a
Cage the Elephant.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on in your music. I think initially you can hear the Kings of Leon coming through, but once you listen to it 2, 3, 4 times, there's a lot more depth to it than just that sound.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that has a lot to do with the relationship and chemistry between Casey and Colby, the way that they gel together, the way that they write together. Even their relationship just as friends, they're tight. And the thing about them is that Casey comes from this background where he's influenced by country music, and not country that what you think of, but like real, like Sturgill, that type of vibe. Kate, like anytime I get in Casey's car, like he'll have something new for me, and it's not even country half the time, but it's like this soul funk country blend, this like Americana, like anything, and it's always just great. Him and Colby have some of the best taste in music I've ever heard, and it's like where Colby stops, Casey picks up, and vice versa, and for me, it's like, it's great to be around people like that because they've introduced me to so many different things, and they've opened up my mind to what music is and what music can be, because I tend to get into a smaller groove. And what I mean by that is just a certain and very specific angle I'm always taking on these songs. And with them involved, it's kind of flipped me upside down and turned me around all together. And it's like, wow, I could really write in a number of ways, and leaning on these two can really provide those different styles. And that's why you hear those different blends, And I think that a lot of my phrasing here and there can Kings of Leon-esque or like the way I approach a vocal, but most of the music and everything and the way that they want to introduce melodies, and some of those melodies I sing, they come up with themselves. Some of the lyrics I sing, they come up with themselves, and they say, hey, why don't you try singing it like this? Why don't you try doing it like that? And it's really helped me change my game and really kind of bring a variety out of myself that I didn't know even existed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you're looking to continue to grow and expand and adopt new ideas, adopt other thoughts from the people in your band, instead of just being locked into this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to do it.
Right.
That says a lot.
That's the thing about it is I just, I'm very confident in my ability as a singer. I'm very confident in my ability as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's like I'm absolutely nothing without those guys. They're everything to me, and they're everything to what we've achieved. Without them, it's it's nothing. And I really feel that way, and we always like to carry ourselves that way. And we never, ever, in any situation or instance, could ever credit anybody in particular for a success or a sound or a song, because we're just so equal. We're so equal in different ways. And I feel like when you lose sight of that mentality with a brotherhood, with a group of guys, and you have like that, I like to call it forced leadership or something, but I just think that we kind of lead each other. We make our decisions based off of each other. And, I would never want to release a song unless I could look into the eyes of both of them or anybody involved and know 100% that they were as passionate about the sound and the song as I was. And if you have something in your heart or something in your mind that you want to be conveyed through that song and that's not being met, I want to know, and I want to make sure that it does get met in a way that, it suits everybody, and that's something that's really good for us. We've been able to do that time and time again. Every single song that we've ever released, we all see eye to eye on it. There's not a single one. And if we can't see eye to eye on it, it hits the shelf until we can,
Sure.
And I just really appreciate that type of relationship that we've been able to develop, because I've been in situations where we're riding with other people and it's kind of like, oh, this guy's bulldozing me right now. I'm just going to agree and get out of here. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. And that's okay. I get it, but we want to create something that's well balanced, and we want to create something that represents all of us equally, because if we do pop off and we do make it big and it's not representing us and who we are as individuals, what's it really worth? That's how we feel about it.
Yep, absolutely. I think that spirit of collaboration definitely comes through just in the interactions that we've had, but also in the releases that you've done. You can tell that everybody has a voice in it. Everybody that's involved in the project or the launch or whatever. So I commend you for that. Collaboration over competition has been my motto for Louisville, and I think you guys are carrying that out very well within your group.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you're not doing it right, then there's no point in doing it, and that's just the way that we view it. That's the way that we like to do it.
What do you have coming up next? As far as singles, another album, a tour?
Yeah, so we kind of all of the above. We want to get out there, but we kind of have a system to where we would like to release as many singles as we can consecutively to keep our Spotify traffic going. And as far as like a tour goes, potentially, it's really about getting an album out. Like we want to get an album out, but it's kind of like a balance. It's like, hey, because we have enough songs right now, it's about finding the time. As I mentioned, we're trying to approach that acoustic set, trying to do the acoustic sets and stuff. And we have two coming up. One's October 14th in Chattanooga at the Wood Shop, I believe it's called. That's acoustic. And I think we talked a little bit about this at the Monarch. It's kind of like a similar vibe, but it's not quite the same. But as far as the environment goes, it's pretty much similar. But it's not like they don't like the Wood Shop doesn't do what the Monarch does, is all I mean. But like the environment that you're in whenever you play there is very similar.
Mhm.
And then like the Common House, we have one of those coming up. It's like a private, it's like a nice like a country club downtown,
Mhm.
but it's really hip. It's a cool place. But yeah, we're doing a show there on October 20th, and then we're doing a big band set 10/27, October 27th at Clyde. So we have like a well-balanced
Mhm.
thing going on in Chattanooga, trying to get the acoustic sounds out there. And the reason that the acoustic sets are important to us is because we probably have about 10 to 11 brand new songs that no one's ever heard. And they're written, they're completed, they're ready to go.
Mhm.
But we want to sit down as the core group members, Casey, Colby, and I, and we want to work on them, like, and really figure out the ins and outs of it in an acoustic way and see how we can kind of present them properly,
Yeah.
you know. And then from there, we're going to introduce them to the other guys and kind of work them out and kind of get them on the actual list, get them on the set list, and start playing those. And then obviously after that, we're going to start knocking them out individually, recording them as singles, and then we'll probably do a chunk of those and then turn around and release an album with the remaining songs. But we just want to make sure that they're perfect, you know, to our standard. We want to make sure that we do right by ourselves by taking our time and really figuring it out, because we would never want to rush the process and do a song and be like, dang, that went terrible. We should probably never do that song again.
Right.
You know? When in
Right.
reality, if you let it breathe for a minute and if you let it do its own thing and you give each other enough time, you know, because you don't know how many times Colby's just called me up randomly at like 8 at night, like right before he's about to go to bed or something, and be like, hey, what if we did like this? Or like, what if you did this on the bridge? Or what if we did that, you know?
Mhm.
Or, I mean, the perfect example is we have a single that we're working on now. It's the one that we've recorded and messed with it a little bit, but we couldn't quite figure it out. But we tried to record this song in 2016, you know, or no, I don't know why, not 2016. I meant 2020. I don't know why I said 2016. It was June 16th is whenever we first recorded it. June 16th, 2020. And we didn't like it. We recorded it and hated it. We absolutely despised it. There's nothing about it that we liked. And we're like, dude, what the hell? We thought this was a good song. And it was just what it boiled down to is us. We forced it. We forced it. The song wasn't ready. It didn't have enough time to breathe. It didn't have enough time to stand on its own legs. We forced it in the studio. And then we just recently tried to re-record it again. And we're like, man, we don't like it. What's going on? You know? And then we get with our guys, our keyboard player and our drummer, and we finished another single that's ready. It just needs to be mixed. And we're like, hey, let's just mess with this real quick. And we were also rehearsing for a set when we got together. But Colby's like, hey, let's just mess with this for a second. And we played it. And for the first time in years, 3 years, we're just like, that's it. It sounds good. We love it. You know what I mean? And we've never felt that way about it. We've always felt like it had like this. And what it was truly is we had this bridge in there. We had this bridge in there that was cool, but it could almost stand on its own. It's like, this bridge is cool, but really we could use this bridge and these chords for this bridge and make an entirely new song, right? But then there were aspects of the song where we were quiet and loud, and it felt too push and pull. It felt like we didn't know where the song was going. We felt like we didn't know what the song represented. It was just like us trying to do our best at making a catchy song, and it really didn't do anything for us, you know? And we finally, we took the bridge out, and we put like a little jam in there, like a light one, you know, nothing crazy. Not like one of Colby's mega solos that on LAX, for example, if you listen to that song, I think his solo is like 1.5 minutes straight, which he kills it, but you know, to each their own, right? But you know, we kind of tweaked that, and the song's called Smooth Now is what it's called. It's one of my favorite songs that we've ever written. And for the life of me, I can never figure out why we couldn't fall in love with it after a session, because there's nothing worse than going to a session for a couple hours and then you get out and you have nothing to show for it. You're like, damn, this sucks. Like it makes you question, like, are we good? Like, are we a good band? You know what I mean? This is one of the things. And we finally got to the point with that song in particular where we're like, we absolutely love this song. We're super stoked about it. And I can't wait to finish it. I can't wait to get back to the studio and actually lay it down. So yeah.
Oh no, that's terrific. And you know, as new stuff comes out, you know, just we'll keep following you on social, and if there's anything that we can do in particular to help you promote what you're doing,
Absolutely.
just let us know. We'll always be glad to do that, and appreciate you, your time here with us tonight, and your music, and the process that you're going through is very deliberate, and I really respect that. What you're talking about as far as we're working songs out acoustically, then we're bringing it into the full band and working it out there. Then we're going in and we're going to record it and get it ready to release as a single. I think that's a really neat process to go through. And the fact that you can have that kind of patience with it is a great trait.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I just feel like you have to, I mean, it's so easy to get caught up and try to rush everything, so we try to avoid that. But yeah, and I appreciate this with you all. I'm very grateful to be on here with you. And I just don't know what's in store for Oweda to begin. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, like, there's so many different avenues that we can go because we have so many different backgrounds and styles. Yeah. It's kind of like you want to do everything at once, but you just gotta pump the brakes, kid. It's kind of like that, and we make sure that we do a good job at that. So, yeah. Thank you for noticing that. That means a lot to me because we take a lot of pride in it ourselves, in the way that we handle ourselves and write things out, and we really just try to be as present as possible in all those processes.
Yeah,
we appreciate you noticing.
Yeah. Well, we will definitely keep in touch with you and make sure that we know what all is happening for you, for your music, for live performances, and make sure that everybody that follows our show knows about all of that as well. But so we've had you on here for a little bit now. Want to respect you and your time. Don't want you to keep your wife up too late. Listen to us jabber. But tell everybody where they can find you on social media again, please.
Yeah, at Oweda Music on Instagram. You find us on TikTok. You find us on Facebook. Growing that as well. Any and every streaming platform is greatly appreciated. Follow us. Check us out, because when you can follow us, that's whenever you get all the updates for the new releases and things like that. Just, we have a lot in store. We have a lot of content up in the air, and we just got to figure it all out. But when it lands, it'll be rewarding, to say the least. So we hope that we can have the audience to deliver it to. And thank you guys for your time. Thank you thank you for the bourbon here. I feel like I've had a little too much, if I'm being honest. I'm a little warm inside.
A little warm, yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Drew, where can everybody find you?
Yep, you can find me on Instagram at drew.crowley63, drewcrowleymusic.com for live dates. And then just keep your eyes on streaming platforms. If you don't follow already, I'd be honored if you'd subscribe. We've got a single coming out within the next month, and then hopefully, dear God, hopefully, a record coming out before the end of the year.
Let's go.
As far as our show, you can watch us on YouTube. So head on over there, hit subscribe, and follow along. You got some comments, you got some suggestions. We're always open to them. If you just want to listen to the show, you can on your favorite podcast platform, as long as that is Apple, Spotify, or Google. We have a Facebook page where we post all of our shows. We have a Facebook group where you can join in. Tell everybody, what are you listening to tonight? What are you drinking while you're listening to it? Maybe you'll find something that you've not heard before, you've not drank before. Maybe you'll find something that, hey, I heard that song, 20 years ago. That was the theme of my prom or something like that, and bring back a few good memories for you. So check us out, join in with the fun. And as always, we do appreciate everybody for tuning in. But until next time, on behalf of Drew and Tyler and myself, cheers, love, and free bird.
Cheers.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Good night, everybody.